Hi everyone, this is Lulu. Welcome back to my channel. So let me ask you a question. How do you feel about transitioning from retail sales to software engineer? That sounds like a significant career advancement with a big salary bump, doesn't it? So how do you feel about changing from a software engineer to retail salesperson? Well, I mean, there's no such things as a good job or bad job. But in this case, it does sound like a downgrade of the career. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Rachel Wu. Let us learn about her job path, which begins as a software engineer and progressed to a skincare consultant, a technical support expert, manager, and now she's a senior manager. Believe it or not, it only took her 5 years to accomplish everything above. Let's kick it off. Hi, Rachel. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Lulu. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Would you want to start with your short introductions to everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Wu. I am a senior manager of technical support at Iterable. I live in San Francisco and I'm based here, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation and for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. So let's get started. So when you initially told me about your career transitions from like software engineer to a sales and to tech support and then to a manager, I was super impressed and surprised. What motivated you to make those changes?
So thank you for saying you're really impressed because at the moment, I definitely was not impressed with myself at all. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. And really looking back on it, it's just been a really crazy ride. And I think what really motivated me to make the changes first was just like checking in to see how I felt every day about what was going on and what I liked doing every day. That kind of really gave me the push to try different things. And we can get into more of that in a bit. But really, when I kind of landed somewhere that I liked, checking with myself, just being like, I like doing this every day. That kind of gave me the pull to kind of continue moving forward in the direction that I was taking.
Now you are not an IC, you are a manager, right? I want to like talk about more about that part as well. So how to move from one like individual contributor role to a manager role?
Man, so I think that path is going to be different for each role, each department, and even each company. Because I think you do also have to keep in mind, like, especially if you're at a bigger company, there are specific processes that you have to follow, right? And different like ways that you can show that you are ready for this role. Whereas maybe in smaller companies, it's like the need is there and you are a high performer. And so is this something you might want? And so I think for me, honestly, I had always wanted to be a manager, but from my background in engineering, I knew that it takes a bit of time to really gain that experience and like years to gain that experience and then just show like you're ready to be able to manage people. So I was like, oh, that's not going to come for me anytime soon, but I do want to be a manager. And it kind of just happened that the opportunity was there where it was like, hey, this team is growing. We need a manager. And my manager asked me like, have you ever thought about it? And I was like, oh my God, I did think about it. I have wanted to do this. I just didn't think this would come soon. And so I really have to thank my manager for really giving me that opportunity, thinking of me and like giving, and now here I am. But I think really, and kind of what I've been telling, my team members and kind of helping them develop, especially if maybe you don't know this is something you might want to do, or if the opportunity just isn't there yet. I think really kind of in thinking the mindset of kind of getting a promotion is like, kind of like there's that thing where that saying it's like, oh, dress for the role that you want, work for the role that you want, So I was, I really liked what I was doing. So I was like, as a frontline like support agent, I really wanted to get to help my customers. I wanted to do what was right by them, get them answers in a timely manner, resolve their problems and really have a really good relationship with them. And just really diving into that, I think was what made me a high performer and really like kind of able to oversee different projects with different customers as well. Like, hey, I noticed that, in trying to do this for my customer, we're missing this kind of a process. I really want to fix that to make my life easier and the customer easier. In essence, therefore, taking on a project that maybe a manager or like a lead would do. So that's kind of how I've seen things in my experience.
That makes sense. So I spoke with many new grads and literally a lot of people just recently getting laid off. So most of those people are said that my career goal going to be become a manager like in 5 years or in 3 years, right? But the things afraid of me that I get afraid of is I don't really think they know what that exactly means. So what does it means to you to be a manager or particularly a female manager?
Yes. So I think also a manager role is going to be a little bit different depending on the company that you're at. But for me, at first, I was like, oh, managing people means like really working directly with your direct reports, really coaching them, working one-on-one with like people, and then working with like other departments too. And then now I'm in the role, it's like, not only do I do that, I also do a lot of administrative things, a lot of like project-based things, a lot of other tasks. So there's actually two things to this role that I kind of didn't really think about, that I do also tell people like, hey, I know you mentioned you love mentoring people, but as a manager, you don't only just mentor people, you also have like your own projects to do. You have to think about how your team works and think about processes and efficiencies and, do those things in addition to like working with people and developing them. And so that's kind of what I learned, that there's, I think as an IC, you're very used to like doing your defined role. And it's usually very like kind of in this direction, whereas like as a manager, it's not just here anymore. There's like two roads, three roads, and it just kind of broadens a lot. And I was just like getting used to all these different things that kind of had to enter my head that I'm kind of working with. So I think that's just one thing to keep in mind, that, not only are you responsible for people, you're responsible for your team. You should still do it. If you really still want to, be a manager, I say go for it. But just so you know, there's a lot of things involved. So that was, I guess, the first half of that answer. But because your second half, you were asking me about being a female manager. I will say I do feel very lucky that at my first role, a lot of the people in the leadership roles, like in manager roles or like senior managers, directors, like the ones I was working with, they were female. They were women or people identifying. And so it was great for me to see that representation. That's just like, oh, that could be me in a few in a few years, whatever my timeline was for me at the time. And so and now for me, it's like, what does that mean for me? And as it is with Asians in anything, I think representation is really important, especially Asian Americans. And so being a female leader, I think for me is also important because one, it's good for my career. I want to move up, I want to learn, but also really being that face for people to be like, hey, maybe I could be like her someday. Being that representation. Whether or not I do a good job, I'm here, and I want you to feel that you could be here as well.
Yeah, I think you did a great job on that for sure.
I'm trying really hard.
Yeah. So let's come to some suggestions since you have enough experience. Like especially like you have experience handling the career change. Do you have any like suggestions for the career changes?
Yes. So thank you for talking about this, because I kind of forgot to mention it earlier. But in the moments where you're trying to, maybe this career, what you're doing isn't maybe what you want. I think step one is realizing that you're not in a place that you want. And then I think the second is really going through, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's like going through that exercise of like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Like finding out what you do like, and especially finding out what you don't like. And I try to do that with my team when we're trying to talk about their career. It's like, some people might not know what they want, but to do in their career, but what you like to do every day, and what you don't like to do every day. And then after that, I think, really trying to broaden your world. And because I think as a software engineer, like in the engineering org, I didn't know that I knew sales was a role, but I didn't know how many roles there actually existed in a sales organization. Like originally when I went into sales, I wanted to be a solutions consultant, or another role name is like a sales engineer. Because I'm like, oh, you can be the technical point of contact in a sales process. Like I did not know that existed. And so, one way to really broaden up your world is like, not only just LinkedIn, because that's, people that you're connected with, but like check in with your friends. Like, I think my friends, like, I didn't even know what majors they were, because we got to be friends in like an extracurricular group. But it's like, oh, that's your role. Like, trying to find out what your friends do for a living, what their partners do for a living, what their parents do, what your parents do for a living, just in case you didn't know what they did until you were like older, and then just really just using that to broaden your world and seeing what's out there. And then after that, finding out what you like, doing basically informational interviews. Like, what is your role? Like, what do you do every day? And I will say, from my movement from sales into technical support, I kind of did that. I with the existing members of the support team at the time, I think I just took like an hour of their day. Asked them so many questions, because at that point, I knew what I like to do and I knew what I didn't like to do. And I asked, do you do the things that I like to do, and do you not do the things that I don't like to do? And I had a very good idea of what was happening at this role at my company at the time. And so when I finally went into the role, a couple months later, my manager asked me like, so what do you think? Any surprises? And I was like, nope. I dug in so hard. And they were so nice. The team members gave me that time of day to share about themselves, which I thought was very nice, and never looked back.
That's a really great suggestion. I love it a lot. Well,
Thank you. Yeah.
also I get to notice you recently being promoted. Congratulations.
Oh my God. Thank you.
So
Manager to senior manager.
what's your advice to those folks who are preparing for a promotion?
Man. Oh, okay. Yeah. For me, there's always, I guess, that moment of doubt, because you know, you don't really know what's happening. There's always like administrative things going on. You know, for those who are in IC roles, non-manager roles, there's a lot of administrative things that go on all the time. And so I think that's another view you see when you go into manager. There's like a whole side in the back where you're like, that has to go through first. And so I think for me, when before that promotion, I was really doubting myself. I was like, am I doing a good job? Am I really handling things okay? Like I'm working really hard, and I think, you know, I'm just starting to worry that things are falling through the cracks and things like that. And I guess and then I got the promotion. I was like, oh, I guess I was doing fine. And so I think, you know, for people like that, you know, sometimes you do have to just like, one, don't doubt yourself, continue doing the work that you're doing. Especially if you and your manager are aligned that this is what you want to do and the opportunity is there. You know, I think that's the first thing. Make sure that it is very clear to your manager that you want you want to take the next step in your career. You want to be promoted, and making sure you're in line with that. And then if everyone is on the same page, keep doing what you're doing. You know, don't doubt yourself. You know, no imposter syndrome. You know, like you can do this. And yeah, I hope that covers everything.
Yeah, I love that. So come to my final question. So I feel that you are always, always, always energetic, but it must be sometime you must have some downtime and need some directions about your career. How do you get over those time?
I also really appreciate that you noticed that I'm like high energy, because I don't always feel that way. Like you mentioned, there are times that I feel down. And actually, funny enough, when I was feeling unhappy as a on the engineering org, I think someone one day told me like, "You're always happy, Rachel." Like that's nice. And in my head, I was like, "You have no idea, you know, like, you don't know anything about me. I have more emotions than that, you know." And I guess it's like what gives me that energy is one of my strengths, which is I really like talking to people. And so, you know, just being able to see your face, Lulu, and being able to talk with you makes me really happy. And so I think that's also what made me want to do something customer facing, because I just like talking to people. But yeah, so definitely about the career and just kind of being, well, I really, me just liking to talk to people, depending on how it is that you like to get your thoughts out. For me, that's just talking to people. So I really leverage my partner a lot, like probably more than I should have. And but you know, he was very kind and just always willing to listen. But you know, if whoever that is for you, maybe like your best friend, or like, you know, and that's in like your personal life. If you have like a good relationship with someone in your professional life, like maybe you do have a good relationship with your manager, just like kind of, you know, sitting them down and be like, hey, vulnerable moment from me. I need some help with my career. Like, do you have a second to talk about it? And, you know, knowing that they're your manager who's got your back, you know, they will give you that time, you know, even if somebody on my team doesn't want to stay on my team. It's my job, and it's also my in my care to be able to help you through whatever you need to do. So I think that's it. Really, just being able to talk it out with somebody, you know, and like, you know, people on LinkedIn, if you happen to connect with people are surprisingly like really nice and really willing to kind of talk to you and help out. And you know, I'm one of them. If you would like to reach out just to like talk, please connect with me. I'm happy to do that. But I think really getting it out of your head and in the world, it really helps to have somebody to do that with.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Last word, I really want to say that every time I talk to you, I feel that I get influenced by you. You know, that your high energies just build my day every time.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Lulu. I feel the same with you. I was like, I get to talk to Lulu today. So I really also appreciate you helping with that build.
Yeah. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for the opportunity. This was great. Thank you so much.